Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, it's going to be a somewhat quick one. I'm going to be going over a couple sideboard options for Katsu as we go into this Mastery Pack Guardian and eventual Super Slam. All these pesky Guardians coming around with a lot of armor, dominated attacks, kind of really impactful on hits. So how do we work through that? I'll kind of give you some options that you could look at and hopefully help you out if you're somewhat new to the hero or just haven't played Katsu since Guardian was last really relevant in the meta. So we'll get right into it. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully enjoy your stay. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much as always. Feel free to check out all the good stuff down below, the Discord, the creator worksheet, the channel membership, whatever you may be interested in. So yeah, we'll get right into it. So for the thing I wanted to point out with Katsu that's really interesting is like, a lot of players that have picked up the hero recently may not be as familiar with like how to combat Guardian, or not how to combat, but how to play against Guardian, like what you're looking for, because honestly, Guardian hasn't been a thing in the meta. We've had Victor. Victor was pretty prevalent, but like the last major Guardian hero besides Victor that was even remotely relevant was, Oldhim, I guess. Guardian has been kind of on the outs for a very long time. We had Starvo, but that's neither here nor there. We haven't had like an insanely good Guardian in a long time. And back when I first started playing pre-Monarch, one of my favorite matchups was the Bravo matchup. It's not a favorite matchup, doesn't feel great, but there's a dance, right, to be able to block out that one really good crush effect that they were trying to get on you and be able to, push enough through and walk them down enough to where you could then combo them out. It's a really fun matchup. So kind of going through this, the first one, and it's one of the more kind of, I don't want to say controversial, but some people like it, some people don't, is Unmovable. Unmovable is really nice against old school Bravo when you're trying to get an arsenal and use a blue to be able to block out one of their dominated crush effects like Crippling Crush, because this by itself with a pitching a blue will completely block out a Crippling Crush effect. The 4 more blocks 8 from arsenal. If you put an arsenal, it blocks 8, and which is the 11 from Crippling Crush. This was a card that was used against Bravo. This card would only come back relevant in the sideboards, I think, if we had a Valda meta, or Valda was one of the top decks and you actually wanted to tech for her, because we are going to have this weird triangle. Let's just say Guardian ends up being good enough to come back into the meta, at least as a decent meta player. You're going to have like this triangle between like aggressive decks, Guardian, and Gravy Bones. And then you have obviously Slippy kind of making its way in there. So I think Unmovable will be mostly used if Valda ends up being like the creme de la creme Guardian, especially once Super Slam releases. We see how Lyat plays. We have Valda. We have even Bravo players maybe coming back. We have Victor, who got some really good clashes. So this card is more suited for Valda. I ran it way back pre-Monarch against Bravo. So if you're really wanting to tag against them, you could run it. The hard thing about this card, and it's the reason like it was 50-50 with some Katsus, is it does require a blue to pitch it. If you arsenal this card, and then the one time Valda plays like a dominated, put them in their place against you, and you don't have a blue in your hand, this is really bad. Obviously, so you'd have to like basically reset your hand and block out some of the damage, which is fine, but not ideal. So it all depends on how you want to do it. Also, this card can get blown out by like Command and Conquer, but that's neither here nor there. It's why I like the next card that I'm going to talk about, which is Reinforce the Line. I think Reinforce the Line is probably, if you're wanting to tech for Guardian, and I gave you, and you asked me for one play set of cards to play, or a 2 over or 3 over to play, it would be Reinforce the Line. I think Reinforce the Line is the most flexible card of everything. It really allows you to do a lot. It acts as a pseudo defense reaction, right, by giving your target attack action card +4, so you'll block for 7 off of one card when you put this in Arsenal. This is also really nice because you can play it from hand, so if you don't even have an Arsenal and you draw this up with 3 other cards, you still can block 7, which feels really nice. And the other reason I like this card a lot is you're not like limited to having to have a blue or having to be able to pitch to something or whatever the case may be, and it doesn't get blown out by Command and Conquer. If you just want to, if they Command and Conquer you block 6, for some reason they pummel it, you can play the Reinforced Line. You don't have to worry about that, right? And you fully block it out and you kind of reset your hand. So I think Reinforced Line is probably the best option if you're looking for an extra defensive tool in Katsu. And I think it's something that you may see make its way in sideboards if we do get more of a Guardian-esque type meta, right? So there's that. The next one, and I think this is really interesting, this is going to be if we get any place. I don't think this will happen as long as Gravy's a prominent player, unless Guardians just say, I hope I Jim Luck dodge a lot of Gravies, which is hard to do when Gravy's so popular. But regardless, Cyclone Roundhouse, I think, could be a very interesting piece to try to fit in. Put the spinning wheel package back in the deck. Maybe like, you take out like one Fluster, 1 Second Wind, and 1 Be Like Water. Put in your 3 spinning wheel kicks just to have some go again. And then you maybe put Cyclone in the sideboard. And then you put Cyclone in against Rampart decks, against decks that have very, very key pieces of equipment that maybe have battle worn, like Valda's Shield would be really good. You could see this card being, because the good thing about this card is it says if spam wheel kick was the last attack this combat chain, this has at the beginning of the reaction step banish a ram defending card from each chain link. So it doesn't have to hit, which is the nice part. So I've won off this card, which is, it's really fun when this card works. But like Valda's Shield, Rampart, certain decks really care about certain equipment pieces that have battle worn. You can even maybe get lucky and take away a tectonic plating. And then once they see that happen one time, every time they see a spinning wheel kick, they're going to have to think about that, of letting it hit and stuff like that, and like what they're blocking with. So I could see this coming in decks if we get into a meta where the armor matters a lot, especially like Valda's new shield and Rampart of the Ram's Head. But it all depends on how much Gravy actually allows them to do that. But it's at least a card you can think about, and it's a card that sometimes is forgotten. It actually has some pretty good use case, to be honest with you. And then we have Tried and True Menchi Release. The Menchi combo, I have finally let it go. I am the biggest Menchi, stan in the world when it comes to the Menchi line combo. But it may end up coming back if we get to a point where Guardian is really, really good. It may be a sideboard because we're going to need some recursion. Guardian's very hard. If you're playing properly and both players are kind of drawing normal, if that makes sense, like not high rolling, then it becomes a very grindy matchup that you have to play really mid-range, a lot of defense reactions. I personally board up a little bit above 60. It's just how I could do it. And I think Menchi Release might end up being just a useful tool to have to potentially try to get some cards back in your deck, especially in the late game when the Guardian player maybe is ran out of some armor block. This might be really useful, but honestly, it's very hard to fit this into the list now with all of the synergy we have with Bonds of Ancestry and with Retrace the Past, but it can be useful. So there's kind of that. And then we have Tenacity. Tenacity's already kind of in decks anyway, but this may end up being like a main board piece. Like some people have dropped Master Momentum in the sideboard for like Gravy and Prism. Some people have not. It all depends, but this card might end up just becoming like a 1-of in the main board with a 1 in the side or something like that in order to combat some of these. Because I do think Victor's going to be relevant in the meta regardless of how good people still perceive Gravy Bones after these releases. So I think that this is really good for that. The Victor matchup definitely is still bad, but it's gotten better with the new Edge of Autumn tech. So just the consistency of the deck and to be able to go wider and have natural lines is a lot easier now. So I think Tenacity could be good as a 1-of, or in the main board, 1-of in the sideboard, if you're not already running it. But a lot of people are running this card, so it's not super surprising to see that. So that's where I have it. Like I said, Unmovable is kind of like a 50-50. If you see a lot of Valda in your area early on, once Mastery Pack releases next week, could be a good addition. I would recommend Reinforce the Line. Cards like Cyclone Roundhouse against Valda would be pretty good, being able to potentially get rid of her shield. Or like Tectonic Plane if she runs it, Menchi Release, and then finally Tenacity. So hopefully these made sense to some players that are established and have been around a long time. Some of these cards are kind of like obvious, but a lot of people have picked up the game recently, and a lot of people have picked up the game since after Guardian was even relevant in the meta, right? I mean, Victor's been like the only remotely relevant Guardian we've had. I mean, I'm doing this on the fly because I'm a professional YouTuber just to like double check and make sure I'm not crazy. But like, yeah, it's only Victor. Victor's been the only one in the last like several years. So definitely give these cards a try if you're not sure what to put in your sideboard, or you can just go all in and say, hey, I'll do the best I can on the Guardian matchup, and I'll just be really good in the Gravy, really good into other aggressive decks like Syndra, try to have a little bit more tech into like Arachne Slip Through the Cracks with like, maybe Wax-Ons, or like other just like general defense reactions like Sinks and Flick Flack. So it all depends on how you want to take it. But hopefully you like this kind of content. If you did, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If you have a card that was not listed in here that you think would be a good addition, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Everyone's got their different way of playing the hero. I know for me, with some of these synergies that Katsu has now with Retrace the Past and Bonds of Ancestry, matchups where I used to like be more mid-range and defensive and like take my time, I've now just tried to kill them. Like, I'm not saying it's the good or the bad way to play it, but like I've found myself just trying to be more aggressive rather than trying to like pick my spots. And it all depends on how you want to approach it. So definitely figure out what's best for you. But yeah, if you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. If not me, it's completely fine. Go to Nerd Creator, leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff. I have an entire creator worksheet down below with access to a bunch of different Flesh and Blood creators that I'm always trying to update and add to. Just add a couple this week that I had found, which is really cool. And yeah, let me know what you think. Thank you all so much, and y'all have a great rest of your day. Be kind to each other. See you next time.